Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here. I'm bringing you all my Duke Devlin Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile for Posts, Battles of Legend, Crystal Revenge. We got some more support to help with Duke Devlin's deck, which focused on the boss monster, Orgoth the Relentless, and a bunch of other cards of his that were used during the Season 1 arc, where they were trapped in the virtual world. Duke's cards also focus on being related to the Dungeon Dice game series that he created. And with it, you have a bunch of option cards that can use, different dice cards to benefit from the plays, and the boss monster still being Orgoth the Relentless, and a bunch of other cards that he got in the latest booster set as well. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the main deck monsters, we are running 3 of our boss monster, which is Orgoth the Relentless. Once per turn during your main phase, you can roll a 6-sided dice 3 times, and this card gains attack and defense equal to the total times 100 until the end of your opponent's turn. Then, if 2 of the results were the same, apply the appropriate effect. If all 3 were the same, you apply all of the effects. If it was 1 or 2, this card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects until the end of the opponent's turn. 3 or 4, you draw 2 cards, and 5 or 6, this card can attack directly this turn. So, the bigger the number, the better benefit for Orgoth, being able to hit for some pretty big attack as well, being able to attack directly, the draw power, you name it, this card really has some pretty big power-ups and easy ways to summon out with some of the other cards that we run in the deck, being focused on the dice roll play. We are also running 3 Thunderball. This was actually Yugi's card in Dungeon Dice Monsters, but still find it funny that Duke got it with this card. At the end of damage step, if a monster battle, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can send 1 trap from your hand or that's set on your field to the graveyard to destroy all other monsters in this card's column. If this card is in the monster zone, is destroyed by battle or a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 card in your graveyard, roll a 6-sided die, and if the result is 6, add that target to your hand. You can only use each effect of Thunderball once per turn. Definitely a big risk with the 6 die roll, and then if you can get that card back to your hand, it means you can, add different needed cards back from your graveyard. But Thunderball also kind of plays like its style from its Dungeon Dice Monsters counterpart, being able to use your different trap crests. It was either trap or spell crests, I can't remember, to destroy everything in Thunderball's path, being the column that it is in. And we do run a few traps to help with the overall setup of this combo. The other dice roll cards that we run, because dice rolls are very important for the setup: 3 Snipe Hunter. With this card, you can discard 1 card, target 1 card on the field, roll a 6-sided die, destroy that target unless you roll a 1 or 6. So just good destruction power. Snipe Hunter is also not a once per turn, but the big focus with this card is it does require a die roll, so you can at least have another search option with some of the other cards that we run in the deck, like Dimension Dice. And the last monster that I run in the deck is just 3 Stygian Street Patrol. If this card destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the original level of that monster in the graveyard times 100. And you can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon 1 Fiend monster with 2,000 or less attack from your hand. So the main play with this is for the fact that Thunderball and Snipe Hunter are both Fiend monsters, giving you an easy special summon for these cards. Sadly, Orgoth the Relentless is a warrior monster, so we can't get the same special summon. It would be really awesome if it was, but like I said, we're focusing on the fact that Orgoth is a warrior, so we'll rely on the other cards we run in the deck to summon out Orgoth much more easily. But you can set up Stygian Street Patrol in the graveyard and then have that option to be able to special summon another Fiend from your hand and being able to have that play with your other cards. And you can easily set it up for your graveyard with cards like Snipe Hunter being the discard, and then use that to summon out either another Snipe Hunter or Thunderball from your hand. That is it for the main deck monsters. Moving on now to the spells. I run 3 copies of the field spell, which is Dice Dimension. When this card is activated, you can add 1 Dimension dice from your deck to your hand. At the start of the battle phase, you can activate this effect. Each player rolls a 6-sided die and applies the results to all monsters they control until the end of this turn. If it's a 1, you lose 1,000 attack. 2, gain 1,000 attack. 3, lose 500 attack. 4, gain 500 attack. 5, half their attack, or 6, double their attack. So it all comes down to who has the best die roll for that battle when it's activated. And each player rolls that die at the start of the battle phase. So it's almost like you are playing Dungeon Dice Monsters and seeing who can dimension the better dice on the field. It's a field spell, so you have that set up during each play, and then you can make use of having a weaker monster potentially be stronger against your opponent if the die roll was better. And also, when it's activated, just being able to add 1 dimension dice from your deck to your hand. You have the search for the very useful dimension dice. If you control a card with an effect that requires a die roll, you can tribute 1 monster, special summon 1 monster with an effect that requires a die roll from your hand or deck. So all you need is a card or effect that requires a die roll on the field, and you have access to your Orgoth the Relentless. This is basically like dimensioning the dice in Dungeon Dice Monsters, getting a stronger monster on the field thanks to having just a weaker required dice roll monster on the field already. And I also run 3 copies of Summon Dice. With this card, you pay 1,000 life points, roll a 6-sided die, and apply the results. If it's a 1 or 2, immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon 1 monster. 3 or 4, you can special summon 1 monster from your graveyard, or if it's 5 or 6, special summon 1 level 5 or higher monster from your hand. So the 5 or 6 will definitely just give you access to an Orgoth the Relentless that much more quickly. On the field, you can only activate 1 per turn, but then you still have options for the graveyard. If you set up Orgoth in the graveyard, and you have one in either your hand or graveyard, you can use Snipe Hunter for that setup. Then you can have this card, and each one being a 4 out of 6 chance to roll that play. And if not, and you roll 1 or 2, hopefully you have that additional normal summon monster to get out onto the field also. I also run 3 Dice Foon, a quick play spell. You roll a 6-sided die. If the results are 2, 3, or 4, destroy 1 spell or trap on the field. If it is a 5, destroy 2 spell or traps. If it is a 6, you take 1,000 points of damage. So the 1 spell in the deck where you don't want to roll a potential 6, because then it just has a negative quality against you. But you take the chance for the 5 roll. Being able to destroy 2 spell or traps definitely makes up for it, because unlike Twin Twister, you don't have to discard anything for this card. It's just that chance you'll take with the die roll. If it's anything else, then it's just a mystical Space Typhoon on the field. And the same concept, since it's a focusly heavy die roll deck, we're also running 3 diced dice. You roll a 6-sided die, and if you roll 1 or 6, add 1 card from your deck to your hand that requires a die roll. If you roll a number other than 1 or 6, roll it again and apply the appropriate effect. If it's 1 or 6, return this card to the hand, or if it is a 2, 3, 4, or 5, place this card on top of the deck. You can only activate 1 dice per turn, but still, it adds a card from your deck to your hand that requires a dice roll, so it's another Orgoth, Snipe Hunter, Thunderball, you name it. A good majority of the deck can be searched thanks to this spell. I also run 3 Allure of Darkness, Orgoth the Relentless, being the outlier, being an Earth and Warrior monster, can sadly not be used for the Allure, but you don't really want to banish Orgoth to begin with. But the other monsters, including Thunderball, and then Stygian Street Patrol, and Snipe Hunter, all are dark attributes, so you can easily banish them and hope to get some more important cards into your hand thanks to this card. And for the one-ofs for the spells, I run 1 Monster Reborn, just easy special summoning back onto the field from the graveyard. Foolish Burial to set up the Stygian Street Patrol in the graveyard. Harpy's Feather Duster for back row destruction. And 1 Terraforming to be able to search out our very important field spell. And that is it for the spells. Moving on now to the traps, I run 3 copies of Dice Reroll. With this card, 1 time during the rest of the turn, if either player rolled a die or a dice, you can have that player re-roll. You can only gain this effect once per turn, so it's useful when you have the field spell option, because you can have your opponent re-roll if they get a good roll off of this, but you can also potentially, for the 1 time needed for the dice re-roll, be used for one of your other cards that you just didn't get the proper die roll that you wanted. And you can also just use this card as the proper trap to send if you wish to eliminate an entire column with your Thunderball. And the same for the final trap, which is just 3 infinite impermanents. You have that option for using it if your opponent went first, but it's also here just as another trap to potentially send if you just want to eliminate that whole column with Thunderball again. And as for the extra deck, there wasn't really much extra deck wise for the particulars for the Orgoth deck, so just pretty generic. 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Tornado Dragon, 1 Baguska, 1 Gaia Dragon, and 1 Divine Arsenal Zeus for all the more generic rank options to go into. And for our Link monsters, we are running 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Master King Archfiend, 1 Wee Witch's Apprentice, 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Barricade Board Blocker to recycle the field spell back into our hand, and the 1 IP Masquerena for all the Link 2 options for the higher links, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Decode Talker, 1 Apollousa, and the 1 Underworld Goddess. Like I said, you don't go into the Link monsters as often, but it's good to have them available to use if need be. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck, we once again have the option with Snipe Hunter to be able to send cards from our hand. So if you discard the Stygian Street Patrol, you have the potential for destroying a card on the field with the Snipe Hunter, but if that doesn't resolve, or even if it does, you still have the Banish for this card to summon another Fiend-type monster, and then you'll just need to choose where you want to special summon the Thunderball on the field. If your opponent has one column with more cards in it, that would be the better to set up, because then you can also place that additional trap with your Thunderball, sending it and then destroying all the other cards thanks to Thunderball in that column. You also have the play when you activate your field spell, Dice Dungeon. You can then add your Dimension dice to your hand. All you need to do is control a card with an effect that requires a die roll, and then you contribute 1 monster, special summon 1 monster with an effect that requires a dice roll from your hand or deck. So you have to have a card with an effect that requires a dice roll, which you do. It is the Dice Dungeon field spell. So then you can just have 1 other monster on the field. It can even be the Stygian Street Patrol as a normal summon. You can then activate Dimension dice, tributing this monster, and special summoning out your Orgoth the Relentless to the field that much more easily, and then using the same play with the Stygian Street Patrol, banishing it to summon a Fiend monster, so then you can get your special summon of your Thunderball or your Snipe Hunter onto the field as well, having the bigger boss monster setup and 1 additional monster thanks to it. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy it. It's a really fun deck, and that's the main premise of it. It relies a lot on the die roll, so it's a big risk. But if you're confident in your die rolls and you want to take a chance with this deck, definitely give it a shot and make Duke Devlin proud. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.